tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lions gone, New South Wales are 9 down! Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! Oh, I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Menners, and Australia have taken control of the fourth test at the MCG. A late collapse has seen India slump to 5 for 164, trailing Australia's 474. Joining me is Indian cricket journalist Chandresh Narayanan. Chandresh, how are you doing?
Manners, I'm in a state of shock, to put it simply. I am in a state of shock. I really don't know what happened there in the last 20 odd minutes. It was madness. It was absolute madness. And I think that sums up how India's tour has progressed after the Perth Test match. I guess it all boils down to the leadership of Rohit Sharma. You saw that the tentative approach of Rohit Sharma when he got out, and it's just filtered through in the way Virat's been responding to calls. It's not the first time. This is how he got Pant run out last month against New Zealand. This is how he himself got out last month, run out against New Zealand, and now with Jaiswal. I really don't have words anymore, because I think this just sums up the chaos that exists in the Indian camp.
Well, I'm going to need you to find some words. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do all the talking, Chandresh. But I totally agree with you. You know, India was cruising. They were 2 for 153. Kohli and Jaiswal had put on over 100. It was looking fantastic. He had the brash youngster Jaiswal playing beautiful shots. He was in the 80s. He looked in control. Kohli was playing conservatively, but he was leaving well outside the off stump. He was rotating the strike, you know, and I sort of felt, wow, this could be really ominous for Australia. You've got this young Jaiswal who can make big hundreds, and you've got Kohli who often rises to the big stage. I mean, we've seen him on the MCG play some, you know, famous innings. And then you're right. So about half an hour before play, Jaiswal full ball, drove it to mid-on, and just took off for a single, and Kohli sent him back. Now, I actually do not blame Kohli for this run. There was not a run in this. Maybe in a T20 game in the last over, but Jaiswal smashed it to Cummins at mid-on. I'm not sure why he'd be trying to steal a single there. And it was just a brain explosion from Jaiswal, which then precipitated Boland to get 2 more wickets. You know, Kohli and then the night watchman Akashdeep. It couldn't have been a worse end to the day for India.
Absolutely. It was a complete chaos towards the end. And it summed up, I think, the state of mind that India was in at that time. It just summed it up. And I think you can see that in the way they reacted to the situation. And, you know, Kohli, the way he responded to that call from Jaiswal also summed up the state of mind that he's in. I think that I can't think of anything else, because he was, I think he was tentative. Kohli, who was in form, who was on top of his game, would have been much more sure and would have responded to the call decisively. But that was not the case with the Kohli that we saw today. And I think that really tells you a story about the way the India's play went. And I think it was quite unnecessary to send a night watchman out as well, because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to send a night watchman out. You have 3 all-rounders in the lineup in Jadeja, Washington Sundar and Nitish Kumar Reddy. Why do they need cover? They are there in the side in the first they are there in the side in the first
Yes.
place as a cover
And
for the batters.
there was almost half an hour left. Like that is
Yeah,
way too long for a night watchman. Normally 5-10 minutes, that's good, but they ask way too much of Deep. And you're right, a sign of a scrambled team that he's struggling in these. We've seen Australia dominate now the last 3 Test matches, and yeah, just an incredible finish to the day. As I said, half an hour to go. I was thinking maybe this could be a draw. Maybe India are going to get a big score here, get around 450, 500 themselves, and we'll go to Sydney 1-1. But it doesn't look that way at the moment.
yeah, I think it doesn't look that way. And I was checking on some forecasts for tomorrow. It predicts some rain, so I'm banking on rain once again to bail India out in this Test match, because I think they need to sort their selection out. They need to sort their thinking out, and more importantly, they need to take a call on their captain. I think
Yes.
their captain is not fit for the role. I think it's high time uh, Rohit Sharma steps down and bows out of the side, and that would be the honorable thing to do. And I don't think he deserves a place in this lineup. If you're trying to tell me that he deserves a place right now, then it's completely wrong. And I come to think of it, Ajinkya Rahane and Cheteshwar Pujara were dropped for much less last year, and they got rid of them quite quickly and resisted calls to recall them. And now they've continued with this arrangement with Rohit Sharma as the captain. Now, see, everything seems to be revolving around fitting Rohit Sharma in. So you want to fit Rohit Sharma in, so you've dropped Shubman Gill. The previous Test match as well, you couldn't make any changes in the batting lineup, so you dropped the 2 bowlers. This Test match, again, the same thing has happened. So the more you continue to uh, uh, like make a mess of the selection, the more it will have an effect on every other thing, a domino effect on every other thing that you do in the Test match. And you saw in the way the Test match progressed. I knew this morning, and I had tweeted about it last evening, and I had tweeted about this before the start of the series, that for India, the bigger worry is not the top order. The bigger worry is how they deal with Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark, the batter, along with Alex Carey. And I was proved right once again.
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
proved right once again.
Pat Cummins 49 was epic. Just staying on Sharma. So this year in 2024, he's made 600 runs and an average of 25. So that's not good enough with the bat. It's not, if he was Australian, they'd keep him for sure for another 2 years, but he's not. And the other thing is, he just seems to let the game drift. So this morning, Australia started at 6 for 311. Smith not out. Cummins not out. Then Australia just ran rampant. They scored 133 runs in the first session. They scored at over 5 runs per over. They only lost 1 wicket, which was Pat Cummins out for 49. And Sharma had no answers. And I will say the bowling wasn't great. Siraj had a really off innings. He just did not bowl well. So, but you would think with Jadeja and Reddy and Washington Sundar, Sharma could do something, but he was far too slow to change the pace. I don't think he used Jadeja well enough. And we saw Jadeja get wickets. I think he could have used him better tactically. And it just feels to me that Sharma, as I said, he just lets the game drift.
Like I told you the previous time, Rohit Sharma is a great white ball captain. And this is a classic white ball captaincy trait, to, wait. Just let things be, spread the field. That's a classic white ball tactic. That's not the way teams, captains in first class cricket lead. You saw the last time when Ajinkya Rahane was the captain at Melbourne. He didn't let the game drift any time. In Melbourne, in Sydney and Brisbane, he never let the game drift, because he had experience of leading first class sides. He had experience of leading in first class cricket. First class cricket is about being ahead of the game. You can't be reactive. Here, India, I'm afraid, has been reactive. They have been reacting to situations since Rohit Sharma has come into the lineup. They have been always playing catch up, and so that is reflecting in the way the side has performed. And it is also stems from the fact that too much white ball cricket, too much captaincy in white ball cricket has affected the way you think. That's why you sort of spread the field for a number 10 and 11, or for Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark, because you think that you're in the 45th over or the 50th over of a one day international. That's not how you captain in first class cricket or test match cricket, and
Not at all.
it's showing in the performances of the team. Then it actually everything boils down to the way Rohit has been performing as a batter, not just in this series but in the previous series in test cricket. Sometimes in India there is a tendency to confuse formats. Rohit played wonderfully at the T20 World Cup, brought a shock value at the top of the order, especially against Australia in that match.
Don't
But
remind me.
that's T20 cricket. But this is Test match cricket, a different kettle of fish. Time is up, Mr. Sharma.
Time is up, Mr. Sharma. So, Chandresh, if you're the selector, do you say, Rohit, you have to finish now, or do you let him play the SCG test?
He has to take a call himself. He can't let this happen because you are making compromises all through. Nitish Kumar Reddy was selected for the wrong reason and played for the wrong reason. Shubman Gill has been dropped for the wrong reason. If Shubman Gill is
Yeah.
not good enough, Cheteshwar Pujara shouldn't be in a TV studio in Mumbai. He should be in Australia.
Reddy bowled 7 overs. Reddy bowled 7 overs. You could have had Gill. You could have had Gill there.
So, and Reddy has been one of India's prime batters in this series. This is just ridiculous what has happened. Like,
So,
I have
speaking of
been,
ridiculous, go on.
no,
You're
I've
angry.
just been
You're angry.
flabbergasted by the whole approach since Rohit has come into the lineup.
Yeah. Sharma out, says Chandresh. I like it. All right. So let's go back to the beginning of the day. Virat Kohli. I haven't recorded a podcast since his penalty was announced for tackling Sam Constas on the field, rugby style. That's a joke. Obviously, it was just a light shoulder barge, but he lost 1 point demerit point and he was fined 20% of his match fee. Now, I think that's about right. I think they could have probably been a little bit stricter on him, but I didn't ever want to see him suspended. But it doesn't do much for the reputation that India runs cricket, because yesterday was the biggest stage in the world, Boxing Day test. He clearly deviated, ran into Constas, tried to be the big man, and he ends up getting a slap on the wrist. So I think the ICC could have been slightly more thrown the book at him a bit more, maybe more demerit points, more of a fine. But in the end, he was always going to play the next test match. And this is just the way it is with cricket. No one's going to take on the BCCI.
Yeah, I think no one's going to take on the BCCI. That's a fair assumption. But I think in this case, it depends on what the umpires said, because the protocol, having worked at the ICC, is that the umpires lay the charge and the match referee like rules on it. And
I think they left it at level 1. I think they left it at level 1.
Yeah. I think Virat must thank his old friend Usman Khwaja for what happened there, because I think Usman Khwaja really diffused the situation. He didn't let the situation get out of hand, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for having the presence of mind for not letting that situation get out of hand. And I think that really played a part. Also, I think the players, more than the BCCI reputation, I think the players' reputation also plays a part certain times. I get a feeling. It results. And I think over a period of time, the match referees have just gotten a bit more lenient in the way they've approached these things since this new demerit system has come in. It's almost like the overrate situation where they let you pile up your sins, almost like they are God's angels and they are letting you pile up your sins. And when it comes to Judgment Day, they will say that they'll read out your charges, saying these are your charges, and we are charging you on this particular count. I don't quite like this approach. If you commit a crime, you pay for it now, not 5 years later. Similarly with over rates, similarly with these kind of things, you pay for it now, not some 4 5 years later. Uh, I, I don't know what got into Virat's head at that time when he did that. It was absolutely uncalled for. It was a boorish behavior in my view, and I think that it also sums up the state of mind that Virat is in.
Yes, yes. I said yesterday a couple of things. Firstly, you're right about Kawaja, because what Virat wanted to do was get Constance into a fight, and then maybe he loses concentration, he plays a bad shot. So he wanted to try and change the momentum, whereas he wasn't, Kawaja cooled things down, and, we saw Constance go on from there. And I do think there was also a bit of Kohli looking at his own sort of old age, sort of seeing a young Constance showed him what he isn't anymore. He's not the young, brash youngster he used to be. Cricket's moving on, and it's not going to have Virat Kohli very soon. And I think as well there was some frustration there. And it's just a terrible test match for him. So he does that yesterday. Crowds all over him. Involved in the run out today, gets out before stumps, playing, it was a decent ball from Boland, but it's the way he seems to be getting out a lot, just playing down the line outside off stump, just poking at the ball. And so very, very poor test for him. And I would think the Sydney Cricket Ground would be a fitting way for him to finish test cricket.
Could be. I think that could well be the case. And I think that he had a fight with the crowd even as he was walking off the field after getting out. Somebody booed him or passed a comment against him while he was getting into the tunnel. So nothing's going right for him. And I think a tough time for a guy who was ruling the roost in cricket, for him to suddenly find the whole world is against him. He's responsible for the whole thing.
Yep, absolutely. And from my understanding, when he had to go at that reporter at the airport before this test match, there was nothing in that. They weren't filming his kids. So it's just this siege mentality around Kohli. And I think, he really wants to win this series. He doesn't want to cough up the Border Gavaskar trophy before he retires. All right, from one great player to another. This morning was all about Stephen Smith. He brought up his 34th test century. It was off 167 balls. It's his fastest test century since 2015. That's from Tom Morris. It was his 11th century against India, a record. He went past Joe Root's 10. It was his 5th ton at the SCG. He looked brilliant. That's throughout the innings, he looked very good, but he really motored from about 60 or 70 to 100 and then 140. He went from 100 to 140 in just 30 balls. Played beautifully. Steve Smith back to his best. And I loved it when he scored the 100. There was a real satisfaction. And I think it was that, last century wasn't just a flash in the pan. It wasn't an old person just stringing one together. He's back. When you score back-to-back centuries, that's what Smith used to do. And it was a vital innings because no Australian had gone on with their start. And I just thought brilliant for Smith, brilliant for Australia. And Smith's back.
Absolutely. And remember, at the start of the series, people were writing him off. And for him to answer in such a fantastic manner tells you what kind of personality he is in. With Root scoring runs aplenty, Steve Smith now scoring runs. It shows that, class is permanent. And the fact that he's not opening anymore is a big help for him, I think. And I think full credit to the Australian selectors for sticking to Steve Smith and for the way they have got the best out of him. And I think the situation also helped him because of the way the Indians were just sitting on the backside, waiting for things to happen. I think that was the perfect opportunity for someone like him to just take off, and he did so quite very well. And full credit to him. And he was aggressive when required. He was ready to punish loose deliveries, especially the way he took on Bumrah, or especially the way he took on Siraj. And Siraj was wayward. all over the place, and Steve Smith was only too happy to show him that he probably was not having the best of time.
Yeah, which is glorious stuff. I love nothing more than seeing Steve Smith score runs, and that was a phenomenal knock. He and Pat Cummins put on a century partnership of just 128 balls. So it all happened way too easily for Australia this morning. It seemed yesterday that with those late wickets, if India could keep Australia sort of between 350 and 380, they'd be still in the game. But then Australia was just able to peel off too many runs in that first session, 133. In the end, Cummins was out for 149 when the partnership was 112, trying to loft Jadeja over the top, caught it long off. I'm not sure why he didn't just push it down the ground to get his 50, Chandresh. I thought Cummins deserved one, but a good innings. And, Smith has been such a thorn in the Indian side, and Cummins, perfect foil, played his shots, and between the two of them, it was just a dominant couple of hours.
Absolutely, and I think this is where I keep saying that India appears clueless against the lower order batters, because their best bowler against the lower order batter is Jasprit Bumrah, but he was spent. He was completely spent by the time this thing happened, and I don't think Bumrah recovered completely from the Sam Constas assault on him yesterday, and I think it showed in the way India also couldn't recover from that assault yesterday, and they kept using Bumrah even to get the number 11 batter out. It shows the lack of confidence that the skipper has now in Siraj. And Akashdeep, though he bowled well, he's not quite Bumrah. He's not Shami. He's not Umesh Yadav. He's not Ishant Sharma. He is a support bowler. He can pick up wickets, but I can't see him becoming the strike bowler for the lineup. And this is where the problem's been for India in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. So they went to lunch, Australia in great form. They were 7 for 454. Then after lunch, Stark was out very quickly, and then a bizarre dismissal for Steve Smith. He came down the pitch, tried to slog one, or smash one, hit it onto his own pad, and then the ball rolled from his pad onto the stumps, dislodging the bails. And, how frustrating for Smith. He was, he could just see it happening. You can grab some water if you want, Chandresh.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
You're very upset about Rowan. It's affecting your voice now. But yeah, how frustrating for Smith. You could see the ball just rolling to the stumps. He was too far to do anything, and an unlucky dismissal, but he goes for 140. Boland and Lyon went pretty quickly after. I did think it was a little strange the way, again, Australia sometimes do weird things. So Scott Boland 6 off 36, Lyon 13 off 18. I think you can kind of declare.
Yeah, I was surprised that continued for a while. I think that also sums up the fact that even the Aussies realize that India has no plan against the lower order. So I think they sort of understand that India has no plan against the lower order batting, and it showed in the way India struggled even to get the number 11 batter out. There was Scott Boland and Nathan Lyon, truth be told, are not really your batters who can challenge.
Not really.
Yeah, challenge bowlers with their batting.
No.
But I think it is it is a completely. I think the Aussies realize that the Indians are down. Let's keep them down. Let's prolong their misery. Let's make them think how much longer we're going to take in terms of closing the innings. Because you saw when Boland was given out LBW of Mohammad Siraj, he quickly went for the review, which means that he wanted to bat on. Yeah. Even after the last wicket fell, he wanted to bat on. So they were not. He was not satisfied. He just wanted to continue.
Absolutely. He reviewed twice. He was saved twice. Then farcically, Lyon was given out and reviewed it, but walked off and was sort of, which I don't like. I think if you're going to review it, I don't think you should review it if you just think it's a waste of time. So if Lyon's like, I'm plumb here, don't review it. Or if you think, you know what, I'm going to test it. Maybe this is not out. then stay there. Don't walk off. It's disrespectful. I don't like it. It's like when Siraj runs down the wicket appealing and not turning to the umpire. I think it's disrespectful. I don't like the optics of it. What, if Lyon thinks it's a waste of time, then don't review it.
Absolutely. But I think that whole phase when Lyon and Boland were batting didn't make any sense to me. And I was wondering at that time, did Australia miss a trick or two by letting that continue for a while?
Well, the thing is, Chandresh, we need to win this game. We need to regain the trophy. If India draw this match and get to Sydney and it rains for 3 days like it has the last few years, they go home with the trophy. So, Australia shouldn't be wasting time. You said there could be rain in Melbourne tomorrow. You just don't want to take chances. And you think about it now. So that half an hour spell before stumps, how difficult that. Back. All right. I just dropped out for a sec.
No worries. Yeah.
Did you hear me? So yeah, they just wasted time. So
yeah.
Anyway, we've been through that. So with the Indian bowling fingers, Jasper Bumrah, 4 for 99, didn't concede 100 yet, so still yet to go for 100 in a test innings. And the other wicket takers, Deep 2 for 94, Jadeja 3 for 78. Sundar took Manas Labuschagne yesterday, but Siraj 23 overs, none for 122. That was the play that went missing for India, because you're right. Bumrah and Siraj are your strikers. They're the ones that can get you wickets. Deep can take up overs and bowl well, but you really need Siraj firing, and he just was completely outclassed in this innings.
Absolutely, and I think Siraj has been off color for a while. I think it's time for him to go back to the drawing board, go back to playing a lot of red ball cricket, and he needs bowling time, which he's not had. And I think it would make more sense for India to let him go back and bowl a lot more than he's doing right now. And what happens is that sometimes you get into a lot of bad habits while playing white ball cricket. And I think maybe Siraj has got into that mood. You saw him bowling a lot of nonsense deliveries where the ball is short and way above the batter, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. And it showed in the way Siraj figures showed at the end. He's played Test cricket right through since the time Bangladesh came to India, but he's not really been in the best of form. And if you can't bowl well in Australia, where else can you be expected to bowl well? And I think he has to get out of this mentality that he is the aggressor and he wants to take on the world. Sorry, mate, you need to just bite the bullet and let things be. You can't try and be a warrior out here. You need a performer. You don't need a warrior on the battlefield. You just need to be a performer.
Yeah, he's one of those classic foreign fast bowlers that comes here and gets excited by the extra pace and bounce and just get a little bit lost in that. He's lost the ability to keep that line and length. So Australia make 474, terrific stuff. And then Rohit Sharma out to Cummins for just 3 in the second over. A limp, meek pull shot, just a nothing shot, a shot of a player who's out of form, who's maybe past it. And it was just too easy for Cummins there. I mean, that was, such a soft dismissal from Sharma. So that was concerning. And then KL Rahul and Jaiswal were batting really well, was getting up to tea break. Rahul, who's looked so good all series. Pat Cummins with an absolute peach of a delivery, angled in like he normally does, just a wobble seam, hit the right spot, seamed away, cannoned into Rahul's off stump, very much like the Joe Root delivery that's so famous from the 2019 Ashes. But we've seen Cummins do that occasionally. And that was the last ball before the tea break, and just such a hammer blow for India because, as I said, Rahul's been in good form, but you can't criticize Rahul there. That's not many batters are keeping that out.
No, and also, like I kept saying that to ensure that Rohit Sharma plays, they again changed the lineup, and Rohit decided that he will open. And you saw he played a very weak shot, and it's the shot of a man short on runs, short on confidence, and doubting himself with a lot of self doubts. And it showed in the way he responded. And the man who was scoring runs, you pushed him down the order. Imagine Rahul and Jaiswal starting once again, just the way they batted in Perth. Perth seems a long time ago now. That was the first test match of the series when the two of them put on 200 runs. Both of them were in form, complementing each other very well. But just to accommodate the skipper, you've had to push Rahul down, and that's changed the whole thing once again. Uh, I think India are all over the place now, and serious questions have to be asked to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll see at the end of this series, and we might even get a bit of a hint after this test match heading to the SCG. Rumours from some of the journalists here are there's going to be a big retirement from the Indian camp. So it could be Sharma, could be Kohli, it could be both of them. Maybe they don't even make the next test match, because if you're India, the series is still on the line. If you think Sharma's not good enough for the next test match, you've got to make the tough call and just say, sorry, you're not going to get a farewell test match. We need to win this to keep the trophy. So Rahul gets out first ball, last ball before tea. Kohli and Jaiswal put together a magnificent partnership. Jaiswal gets to 82 off 118 deliveries, and I had a feeling he was going to do well on the big stage after what we saw from Constas yesterday. And that run out just so disappointing for everybody, even for neutrals, because he was in such fine form. It's a pleasure to see Jaiswal at his best. He goes, then Virat Kohli just plays at a bowl and delivery that just shaped away. Kerry took the catch, and then Deep was out, caught around the corner off Boland. So Boland getting 2 late wickets, 12 overs, 2 for 24. Cummins 2 for 57. Stark, Lyon and Marsh yet to take a wicket. Mitch Marsh has bowled 3 overs, so that's his allotted number for the innings. So I don't think he'll be available to bowl again tomorrow. But Rishabh Pant is not out 6. Jadeja not out 4. India still trail by a whopping 311. So really, they've got to get past the follow-on tomorrow and hope this. This is the thing they took. So, they've got Pant, Jadeja, Reddy, Sundar, all to come who can bat. They've got to hope the gamble of playing this long batting lineup pays off tomorrow.
I don't think it'll pay off. I think that the innings will wind up quite swiftly tomorrow, and then India will be forced to follow on. I have a very strong feeling, and we could probably have the test match ending tomorrow.
Wow, that is a big call. Chandresh, the test match could end tomorrow. Wow. Love that.
No, I'm pretty honest about it because
I like it.
Because you don't have batters in form, lack confidence, and India's lower order batting may probably struggle against this rampant Australian bowling. So I
agree. I think if India's innings goes on, Australia won't enforce the follow on it, because they just don't like to. I just think Cummins is obsessed with resting. So I think if Australia wraps up India pretty quickly tomorrow, you could see them have a bat, get a big lead, 400-500, and then just go for the win. I think it's been a very good pitch, though. I think you have to say it's had a bit of everything. There's been a bit on it for the fast bowlers. It's coming onto the bat well enough that you can play your shots. There's a little bit of turn. So I have to say it's been a very good cricket wicket.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic cricket wicket. Full marks to the turf manager at the MCG. And I think that I hope for his sake at least that the test match goes into the 5th day. But looking at the confidence of the Indian batting, I don't see that happening.
Yeah. I agree with you, but I'm wary that I think India will throw a few punches before this match is over, but I don't think there'll be enough. Australia have just got way too far in front, and that collapse of 3 for 6 before stumps today could be terminal for India. But, all is not lost for India. That's the great thing about holding the trophy. They lose this test match, they can still go to Sydney and win there and take home the trophy. So it doesn't totally wipe out their chances, but they would need to have a big upswing. So that's the day 2 wrap. Australia made 474. Steve Smith, a brilliant 140. His 34th test century. He's climbing up that list of test centurions. He's back. Australia's back. And fantastic stuff. Now, I want to end this podcast, Chandresh. We've got a very good listener called Pritam. And he's always talking to me about how, asking me, is the Border Gavaskar Trophy going to overtake the Ashes in terms of importance in Australia? And I think I often say that I don't think it will, because there's just such a rich, long history with Australia versus England. But some crazy figures have come out from the Boxing Day Test match. So let me go through them. Let's look at the TV audience. So on Boxing Day in Australia, the test match had an average audience of 2.2 million viewers. That's across all the platforms. It's the largest audience for a day of test cricket since Seven and Foxtel took over the rights in 2018, 2019. And then they had 1.2 million people watching the Big Bash afterwards and 750,000 watching the second Big Bash game. But just on those Boxing Day figures, 2.2 watching on TV, the highest ever. So that's a pretty compelling argument for the fact that the Border Gavaskar Trophy is now maybe overtaking the Ashes. And then record crowds. So yesterday, over almost 90,000 people turned up to the ground. Today, 85,000 people turned up to the ground, which is a record for any day 2 of any test match at the MCG. All the Ashes, all the previous tours, this is the record. And then you also had, huge crowds for the Big Bash that night. 20,000 at the SCG, 40,000 at Perth. So, cricket is the number 1 sport in Australia. People can tell you there's AFL and all this bullshit. Nothing unites the country like cricket. Nothing. But just on, the Border Gavaskar Trophy v. the Ashes, I think what we're seeing now is there's a real fervor around this rivalry. And I think a lot of it is built upon, the heavy Indian immigration to Australia. We have, such a large Indian community here. They're so passionate about cricket. They support the game. And I think it's elevating this contest because, you've got the Australians into it. You've got all the Indians that live here. You've got people coming from overseas. So I think it's getting very close. Like Border Gavaskar Trophy and Ashes are very close now. What do you think?
I agree with you on that, and I think all the stats that you've given, it's very compelling. But I think you'll see that next year when the Ashes comes over, the very fact that you have a very strong history attached to the Ashes.
We hate them. We hate them. They hate us. We hate them. Yeah. Whereas I think there's a begrudging respect for this Indian team. Yeah, it's not the same for the English.
Yeah, because I think also fact that England's not won in Australia anything in the last 15 years.
They haven't won a test match since 2010,
yeah,
11.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. How embarrassing for them.
That's why I find it very sanctimonious on the part of, say, a Michael Vaughan or even even Pakistanis who message me and ask me, what happened? How did India lose the second test match? I said, for God's sake, you haven't won a test match in Australia for 30 years. And it doesn't look like you'll win a test match in Australia for the next 30 years. This Indian team has beaten Australia twice in the last 2 series.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I have the right to criticize the Indian team because I expect much more from them. But when I see the Englishmen, the Pakistanis, the Sri Lankans, the Bangladeshis, all turning up and reminding me, oh my God, your team lost, and this was quite pathetic. I said, you guys are not even close to winning a test match or a series, let alone a series in Australia.
Absolutely.
India has won twice. So you guys are the last people to be commenting on what India has done or is doing. Probably Graham Smith is probably the only one right now, and Clive Lloyd and Viv Richards are the only three or two other people who can actually turn up and say India didn't perform well, because they are the ones who have done well in Australia and won series in Australia.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And you know,
and I think,
if England were any other nation, we would say, "Hey, just play 3 tests when you come here. You're
yeah,
pathetic. You're not competitive." But because obviously they bring their, large legion of drunk Barmy Army fans to
yeah,
fill the coffers, they play the 5 tests. But just on performance, you'd say maybe even a 2-test series. Just say like a Bangladesh, play them in Darwin and Townsville in winter, and just get it done like that, because they are, they're just so poor here. And I think so. The difference as well is I do think there's a real cultural difference between Australia and England when it comes to cricket. That there's a real fractious sort of, I don't know, they really combust. England and Australia see the game differently. And I don't think it's as pronounced as with India and Australia. In fact, I think India's modeled itself on what Australia used to be. I think a lot of the way they play is like Australia. But
yeah,
England, it's very different. They are sanctimonious. They just So I think it's, and one thing I love about the Indian support is they love cricket.
yeah.
Like English people, they love drinking. They love singing songs. They love going on holidays to nice destinations. And I'm sure some of them like cricket, but
Yeah.
but not Indians love cricket. They don't need to get drunk to enjoy it.
Yeah.
When I was at the T20 World Cup final in 2022, it was Pakistan. Pakistan, another country that doesn't drink a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
So you have, beautiful Pakistan supporters with their families having a great time. And then you got all these drunk Poms just wandering around drunk as shit, which is fine. It's not for me to judge, but that's what I love about India. They just love cricket. They just love it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it shows in the way they turn up now. Indians travel a lot more around the world, and you see them at all the games. You're seeing a massive crowd at the Boxing Day Test match this time, and all this has happened in the last few years. Incidentally, the man who's responsible for all this is the one who passed away last night, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He, as finance minister, opened up the Indian economy, unlocked the potential of the Indian middle class, which is now traveling all over the world. And a lot of them are now based out of Australia, in various parts of Australia. So a lot has happened. India has unlocked its potential as a cricketing nation, as a nation as well, and that's why it's now slowly coming up very close to the Ashes rivalry. Obviously, Ashes rivalry is the oldest rivalry in cricket, and so there's a bit of history attached to it. So it will take a lot more time for the India-Australia rivalry to match up to that rivalry. Because a lot more has happened in Australia-England battles than in India-Australia battles, which is quite recent in that sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's times when Australia, wanted to have no more association with England around bodyline, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, record crowds, record TV attendance for this test match. Let's see what happens next year when the Poms are out here. Chandresh, thanks so much for joining me today to wrap up the day. Where can the listeners keep in touch with your work?
I'm on Twitter at Chan2579. I'm on Instagram at Chandresh Narayanan. And I'm on YouTube on Cricket Chronicles with Chandresh. You can find me everywhere. And I'm on Cricket Unfiltered whenever Manners calls me. So I'm at all these places. So you can check me anytime.
Well, Chandresh, I love having you on the show. Strong opinions, you don't hold back. So you're always welcome. Viewers, thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back after day 3.